But first tonight, voters aren't buying Labor's attempt to blame the RBA for the cost of living crisis. Former Treasurer Wayne Swan seems to be suffering from relevance deprivation syndrome. He can't handle seeing his former protege now running the economy. And he obviously thinks Chalmers isn't going tough enough on the RBA, because Wayne Swan came out swinging against the independent central bank on Friday.
Well, the government is doing a lot to bring down inflation, but the Reserve Bank is simply punching itself in the face. It's counterproductive, and it's not good economic policy, and I'm incredibly disappointed with what they're doing.
Well, the Treasurer responded and sought to distance himself from Swan just yesterday. And remember, Swan is his close friend and old boss.
Wayne went much further than I have. I'm making a factual point borne out by the national accounts. I don't second guess the Reserve Bank.
Well, the coalition turned the heat on the government today over the anaemic state of the economy. They accused Chalmers of bullying the RBA and also took aim at the Prime Minister.
Why won't the Prime Minister admit his government has been a disaster, as more Australian families are working harder and longer but still going backwards?
Last week, the Treasurer accused the RBA of smashing the economy. Then, Labor's National President and the Treasurer's mentor, Wayne Swan, said the RBA is, quote, punching itself in the face. Treasurer, why does the Albanese Labor government think it's acceptable to bully the independent RBA in this way when all they're doing is cleaning up Labor's economic mess? Why is the government fighting the Reserve Bank of Australia while Australian families go backwards?
Why is the government fighting the Reserve Bank and leaving Australian families going backwards?
Well, the picture is building of Labor trying to turn the RBA into the villain. And this after the Prime Minister also tried to turn supermarket giants into a target for public anger over the cost of living crisis. But Wayne Swan is simply not believable. He's a failed treasurer obsessed with class warfare. This was the man who announced 4 years of surpluses but never delivered a single one.
The 4 years of surpluses I announced tonight are a powerful endorsement of the strength of our economy, resilience of our people and the success of our policies.
The RBA governor has easily deflected criticism that the central bank is to blame for the weak economy. She says that the top priority is to bring inflation down and that talk of rate cuts are premature.
The federal government and the Treasurer said a number of times that he's doing his bit to try and bring down inflation. My job is to focus on what I can do, which is only the interest rate. If inflation doesn't come down, then it might be that the best medicine is in fact that we have to end up putting more restriction into the economy.
So not taking further rate hikes off the table. And voters aren't buying the criticism of the RBA anyway. The Herald's polling today showed that only 27% of voters blame the central bank. And not only aren't the public buying the argument, but they think the opposite. According to this pollster, Resolve Director Jim Reid said that voters are much more likely to hold the government responsible for inflation than the Reserve Bank. And many actually think the RBA is trying to solve the issues caused in part by government. But the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, is right to say that the economy is being smashed. As he says, this is a statement of fact. If it weren't for the high migration levels, we'd likely be in a full-blown recession right now. And we are in a per capita recession. We've had 6 successive quarters of negative GDP per capita growth. So Australians feel like they're in a recession. Their household budgets feel like this. It's a point the Shadow Treasurer, Angus Taylor, made in Question Time today, and he called it a household recession.
Can the Treasurer confirm that Australia has been in a household recession for the past 6 quarters and that this is the longest straight run of falling per capita output on record.
Now, Mr Speaker, if we had taken the free advice of those opposite, if we had taken their advice, the economy would be in recession right now.
Well, Jim Chalmers hit back again, claiming that the opposition wants a recession for political reasons.
Those opposite don't support cost of living help, and they want higher interest rates. They want a recession for political reasons, and they're very disappointed when they didn't get one, Mr Speaker. If we had followed their advice, Mr Speaker, we'd be in recession right now, and we're not. This side of the House is fighting inflation without ignoring the risks to growth, and fighting inflation while recognising the pressures that people are under, and we're getting the balance right.
Well, the best political writer in this country, Paul Kelly, asks how far does the economy need to sink before a circuit breaker kicks in? He says Labor seems trapped between the politics and economics. With its declining trend in the polls and fear of minority government, the risk is that Labor will just offer a more of the same economic agenda at next year's election, a second term like the first. He says that would mean bigger, more interventionist government, a costlier IR model, more red and green tape, no substantial tax reform, full throttle on the renewables transition, and subsiding wages in the care economy. He says that may be enough to get re-elected. It won't deliver a new growth model for Australia. And Labor should be concerned about minority government because the Herald's polling also showed the Coalition and Labor neck and neck on a two-party preferred basis. Labor's primary is at 28%, while the Coalition's primary at 37%. But momentum is clearly in Peter Dutton's favour. The government is on the ropes over national security and border security. It's let people in from a terrorist-controlled war zone without proper security vetting. And now Peter Dutton has shown that he's coming after the Prime Minister over the cost of living. Well, with inflation still persistent and the economy weak, Albanese should be worried.